All right. This brings me to the topic that I have for presentation. It's about a week too late compared to our 4th of July, but I wanted to take a look at our country, our people, 250 years of nationhood, and map it with 250 years of real estate. And the reason that I thought that a view of this topic might be of interest to you guys. Sometimes I'm reminded that as we live our daily lives, we are in details of it. We are involved in putting out fires, taking care of mortgage payments, this, that, the other. We forget the bigger picture. We forget our participation in the bigger picture. As a matter of fact, this is one of my personal passions that I try to look into our personal family and see how we fit in different eras of what our people went through and what were our experiences. And I thought that professionally speaking, this is something that might add a little bit greater clarity as to who we are as realtors, what we've been doing, and how we fit in this 250 years of nationhood. The very first era, and they have been four major eras so far. The very first was right after the independence, and we are talking about when in 1776 we became a country, we became a nation, and John Adams is famously known to have coined this phrase that property has to be secured or liberty cannot exist. This statement practically defines the first era of real estate related activities. America overall conceptually and philosophically rejected the European model of land concentrated among the aristocrats, and property ownership became a cornerstone of the independence, and not only as a nation, but independence and personal freedoms for people of this country. Land ordinance, which was the very first major legislative work that was done back in 1785, it opened land ownership to ordinary citizens. And this era lasted about 100 to 150 years long. That new immigrants going from east to the west, they went to new territories, identified new lands. Lands were subdivided and secured in a systematic way. The second era that affects real estate was the financing era. And this is when Franklin D. Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, stated that a nation of homeowners is unconquerable. Franklin D. Roosevelt became a president right around the Depression years. And having the country gone through World War I and then the Depression, it became very obvious that there has to be a structure. The Great Depression exposed the need for accessible mortgage financing. It wasn't good enough that home ownership and property ownership was a cornerstone, but they had to be mechanisms to make it even more viable option. So New Deal reforms, which were another set of legislative work, they transformed housing finance in United States going back to the 30s. They created the Federal Housing Administration. They introduced the 30-year mortgage financing, which, by the way, even up to today is the envy of a lot of countries out there, which they don't have this structure, this measure. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and VA homes came into existence. and homeownership became attainable for millions of American families. This describes the second era. After that, we get to the third era, which made a major impact, and that was fairness. Lyndon B. Johnson, President Johnson, referred to housing in his statement, fair housing for all who live in this country is now a part of the American way of life. Many African American veterans returning from World War II were denied equal access to VA home loan program benefits and discriminatory practices such as steering limited housing choices. So the national focus shifted from finance to fairness and equal opportunity, and the goal was to ensure housing availability regardless of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Fair Housing Act and related laws were enacted in the late 60s, which have had major impact. Now, that's not to say that passage of laws are the end to the issues faced by minorities and people who were disenfranchised previously. Fair housing is a fight that we are still fighting, but we do have the legal structure to fight this with. The fourth era came after that, had to do with the stability. And most of us in this call, if not all of us, we were part of this already when we started and we were practicing. This was when George Bush famously said that we should be a nation of homeowners. Very simple, very to the point. And this became a reality for us, a focus for us due to the 2008 financial crisis. It revealed weaknesses in lending and financial oversight. Government responded with Dodd-Frank, Wall Street Reform, and Consumer Protection Act, and emphasis was put on consumer protection, stronger lending standards, financial market oversight, and housing market stability. As a matter of fact, in comparison, you look at today's homeowners, there is only 1% of all homeowners today who are in financial distress. So it has brought us a long way from the difficult days of 2008. So with that said, now we are in a new era. And as much as we are in it, we are practicing on a daily basis. Maybe we don't notice it, but this is going to be one of the most significant changes coming next for real estate industry and United States as a nation. Affordability is being a challenge, and we are looking into reducing barriers to production, to building more housing. We are working on modernizing outdated regulations, zoning, and permitting policies. We are preserving tax incentives for homeownership, and we are expanding pathways to ownership for future generations. This is the central question for most of us. How do we make the American dream attainable again? Right after the Franklin D. Roosevelt initiatives, introductions of financing structures and so forth, we had a major advance in home ownership. Soldiers coming back from wars, from World War II, from Korea War, they were able to attain the American dream. And we have experienced something a lot more challenging now. So the question for us is how we make this happen once again. We are very much part of this as practitioners. If you look at the timeline from the independence in 1776, the very first set of ordinances in 1785, you can see that it took a very short time period, 9 years, for the founding fathers and the legislators back then to figure out that they have to work on property ownership. 1933 was the experience of the Great Depression and introduction of financing structures, as we talked about. Then came the Fair Housing Acts, then the financial market disasters, which led into consumer protections and so forth. And now in 2026, we are in the new era. And where have we been on this path? Realtors were established in 1908. We've been on this path with our people along the way. It has been our participation, our advocacy, as you heard today on local advocacy issues in Pasadena and so forth. As you heard about 736 in state of California that was defeated. These are all parts of that new era set of activities that we are trying to maintain tax incentives that work for us and make sure that we are not falling into the trap of unnecessary structure that is going to hinder the possibility of home ownership. So being in there, being part of it is where you are. You might not feel it, but someday we are all going to look at it and we're going to realize that you are participants in a historically significant era within our country, for our people, and for our business. So hang in tight, participate, bring your 2 cents into the conversations of advocacy, join us, give us your power, be our force, let us work on your behalf and your clients, making sure that we are crossing these difficult times together towards a good and equitable conclusion. All right. With that, I appreciate the time.